Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and in today's video we are going to learn about a new chapter which is a very important chapter from our exams point of view. This is chapter number 10 from NCERT CBSE Biology Class 8, and today's chapter is Reaching the Age of Adolescence, chapter number 10. So this is a very important chapter from the exam point of view. Here we are going to learn many new terms, new definitions, and most importantly, these are the changes that we see in our own life. So this we are able to relate very much. The changes we are able to relate very much. So let's start with the chapter Reaching the Age of Adolescence. So let's start. So in this chapter, what are we going to learn or what we are going to discuss? Let's have a quick look on that. So the first thing that we are going to learn is adolescence and puberty. What is adolescence? What is puberty? And we are going to learn about the changes that take place in the humans or the boys and girls during the age of adolescence or at puberty. And the third thing is, what are the secondary sexual characters? What are those characters? What changes they bring about? And what is the importance of those characters in our next or the future life? And what are hormones? And finally, the reproductive health, how and hygiene, how to take measures in cleanliness, how to maintain ourselves. So this is a whole total thing that we are going to learn about in this chapter. So let's get started without any further delay. So the first thing is adolescence. Now, when we talk of adolescence, what is adolescence? We have heard this very much, or we have heard, or you people, the students who are listening to this video, you have learned this, that they are now in the adolescence age, they are in the adolescence age. So what is adolescence? So it is the period of life when the body undergoes changes leading to reproductive maturity is called adolescence. So basically, when we talk of adolescence or puberty, the first thing that we should remember, it is we are reaching the reproductive maturity. This is a very important phase of life, just like the other phases of life. So it is the period of life when the body undergoes certain changes. The body undergoes certain changes leading to the reproductive maturity, which helps in the reproduction or for generation of offspring in future. Next, the period of adolescence is normally between 11 to 19 years of age, and this is known as the teenage. So it starts, or it varies from person to person, from humans to humans, that when the period or when the adolescence will start. For some it starts way early at 11 or 12 years of age. For some it takes around 17, 18 or 19 years of age, and slowly the maturity comes. It takes time, but the ages or the span might differ. For everyone, the changes are different, or the changes that is brought about is shown differently, but obviously or persistently the changes has to be there. Next, the changes which is brought about by adolescence marks the onset of puberty. So adolescence is that particular age when you're entering, you're telling, or it is known as that you're entering the adolescence age of adolescence, and the changes that is brought about is due to puberty. So try to understand the difference between these two terms, that is adolescence and puberty. So adolescence is the age that you are entering. When you're entering the age of 11, 12, 13, you are actually in the adolescence age or age of adolescence, and the changes that the body brings about or the body takes place in the body due to that particular age or particular changes that is happening is known due to the onset of puberty. Adolescence marks the onset of puberty. It is at this age girls and boys attain reproductive maturity. I told you this is pertaining to reproductive maturity. This is so a very important stage of our life cycle. Moving on to the changes that we see. That is the life cycle of a human being. So this is a baby, that is a small baby after born, and slowly they are child, they are baby, they are kids, they become adolescents, that is they reach the age of adolescence, then they become adults, and finally they grow old. So this is how the life cycle of a human being continues. A baby, then a kid, then entering adolescence, then they become adults, and finally old age and death. So this is the total life cycle of a human being, and this is the age, or this is the stage that we are going to study today in this chapter. So changes at puberty. So when we tell, or I have told you just now, that we enter the age of adolescence, and due to the age we have the onset of puberty, and with the onset of puberty there are certain changes happening in our body. Now let's see, so what happens during puberty? There is a sudden increase in height. So always there is a spurt, in a growth spurt happens. Mostly in all males as well as in females there is a growth spurt, but this growth spurt is seen mostly in case of boys, but you cannot negate the fact it is not seen in girls. Obviously it can be seen in girls also. Change in the body shape takes place both for boys and girls. So change in the body shape also takes place both in the boys as well as in the girls, and pertaining to their body structure, to the separate, when in the future how the reproductive phase is going to take place, based on that they have the separate body structure. Like for boys it is the broadening of the shoulders, whereas for the girls it is the broadening of the hips, or more widening of the hips takes place. It is not the same for boys and girls, it is different pertaining to their work, or pertaining to how they are going to get involved during their reproductive phase. Next is the voice changes. Obviously the voice changes, for the boys it becomes very much deep. First what happens, there is a voice break due to the growth of the larynx. Due to the growth of the larynx, what happens, the Adam's apple can be seen, and the larynx presses the vocal cord. So there is obviously a break in the voice for that of the boys permanently, and finally their voice changes. For girls also the voice becomes very shrill, whereas for the boys it becomes very deep. Increased secretion of oil and sweat from the sebaceous glands of the body. So this happens that during this age there is lots of pimples or complaints of pimples, acne taking place, because there is lots of secretion from the sebaceous glands, oil, sweats, all takes place. So personal hygiene is must during this phase of the life cycle. Development of the sex organs, mental, emotional and intellectual maturity. So the development of the sex organs takes place. It is not that it is the initial development, the sex organs will be there, but during this age it is develops into a proper form for going for reproduction. And finally mental, emotional and intellectual maturity. That is, the mental, emotional and intellectual maturity also takes place at this age. Slowly people, or boys or girls, they become mature, they become emotionally, intellectually mature enough to understand life. So this is what the changes takes place on a whole, both for girls as well as boys. Now let's see what are secondary sexual characters. So I have told you that during the onset of puberty, there is a development of the secondary sexual characters. Now let's see what are the secondary sexual characters and what or how it is different in males or in boys and in girls. So the puberty, many changes occur both in males and females. Some of the changes are external, that is visible changes, while some are internal, that takes place inside the body. The features that develop at puberty are called the secondary sexual characters. So what we told, that when a particular boy or a girl enters the age of adolescence, their changes takes place, changes keeps on happening, and these changes takes place or it can be seen in outside, that is you can see the changes happening, or some changes happen inside, that is inside the body, which cannot be seen. So these changes are due to the onset of puberty, and this changes that is brought about, or development that is brought about, is called the secondary sexual characters. Now let's see what are the secondary sexual character changes that happens in boys. First thing, growth of the hair on the chest, underarms and the pubic region along with face. So there is growth of hairs on the face, on the underarms, on the pubic region and on the chest that takes place for the boys. There is the broadening of the shoulders, I told you. The change in the voice, deepening of the voice because of the growth of the voice box or the larynx, which is also known as the Adam's apple, and more secretions of sweat, oil from the sebaceous glands, and increase in height, and also production of male sex hormone testosterone along with that of the sperms. So these are some important characters or the important changes that happens in boys due to the onset of puberty. These points must be very much well read, and you must remember them because you will be asked in this point, so you have to write the points. The first point is growth of the hair on the chest, underarms, pubic region and face. Broadening of the shoulders, changes in the voice, that is deepening of the voice due to growth of the voice box or the larynx. More secretions of the sweat and oil from the sebaceous glands, increase in height and production of male sex hormones called the testosterone, and also production of the sperms takes place from that of the testis. Next we move on to the changes that happens in the girls. So what are the secondary sexual characters happening in the girls due to the onset of puberty? That is growth of the hair of underarms and the pubic region. So there is no growth on the chest or on the face for the girls. This is the difference. And widening of the hip region. The widening of the hip region takes place, and this widening helps into bear the child for a woman or for a girl in the later on stage, that is during the reproductive stage. Development of the breasts and the mammary glands. So development of the breast takes place, the development of mammary glands also take place, while the mammary glands become only functional after the birth of a baby. And more secretions of sweat and oil and the sebaceous glands, which leads to acne and pimples. Increase in height, this also takes place, and production of the female sex hormone estrogen, and along with that of the ova, egg or the ovum takes place in the ovaries. So these are the changes which is very important for secondary sexual characters, or the changes that takes place in the girls. If you want, you can take a screenshot of this so that you can learn the points easily and can remember them, because these points or these changes that happens for both boys and the girls are very important. Next we move on to the hormones and their effects. So when we talk of the hormones, what are hormones and how do they regulate, or how do they actually bring about the changes in the onset on during entering the age of adolescence or due to the onset of puberty? Let's see. Hormones are the body's chemical messengers sending signals onto the bloodstream and tissues secreted by the endocrine gland. So these hormones are a special secretion by our another system which works together, known as the endocrine system, or it consists of all the endocrine glands. So all this sends out chemical messages. It is chemical messages which is sent out by these glands, and they are directly put into the tissues or into the bloodstream, and this affect many parts of our growth process. So this is a very important part of our growth process. Not only growth process, our proper development of the mind, intellectuality, our growth, development, everything, it remains, does not come outside, or it is not to be seen, but they play a very important role in the total development of a human being. They work very slowly over time and affect many different processes, including growth and development of metabolism. I told you they do not come in the front. We cannot see them as things are happening, just like our other organs. But they stay behind, but they have a very important role to play. What do? They work very slowly, and they include, or they have lots of effect on the growth and development and metabolism of any human being. The chemicals secreted by the endocrine glands are also responsible for the changes during puberty. So during puberty, during the onset of puberty, whatever changes that we have discussed just now, it is all due to this secretion of the endocrine glands. Now each gland or each endocrine glands has their secretions, and each of its secretions has its own functions and own work to do. Just like this, during the onset of puberty, that secretions that takes place, or the hormones that is secreted, that play a very important role. We have just discussed, we have told about the female sex hormone, that is the estrogen, and the male sex hormone, that is the testosterone, that is secreted by the female and the girls and the boys, or the female and the male, and they have a very important phenomena or very important part to play during the age of adolescence. The hormones are responsible for transporting signals from one cell to another. So they transport signals from one cell to another, and they're also known as the ductless glands, as they secrete the hormones directly into the blood. So they do not secrete it anywhere else. They secrete it directly into the bloodstream. So they are known as the ductless glands. So this is about the hormones. So they are very important. They are secreted, or they together is called the endocrine system or the endocrine glands. There are different glands secreting the hormones, out of which testosterone is secreted by the testes, and it is the male sex hormone, and progesterone and estrogen is secreted by the ovaries, and that is the female sex hormone. So all these hormones that we are talking of, now there has to be some hormone or some gland which controls all these other glands. There has to be some master gland. So let's have a look at it. So the master gland that controls all the other glands, their secretions, their putting the secretions into the bloodstream or the tissues, is done by the pituitary gland. It is the master gland. Just like as for a cell, we tell that is the main head is that of the nucleus, which controls all the activities of the cells. Just like that, in endocrine system or in endocrine glands, the main gland, that is the pituitary gland or the master gland, which control the secretion of all the other glands. The pituitary gland, also known as the master endocrine gland, is situated in the brain. It produces hormones that instructs the glands or the other glands to secrete their hormones, and the pituitary gland secretes growth hormones, which controls the overall growth of a person. Secretion of growth hormones is maximum during the adolescence period. So we know that after an age of 18 to 20, a person does not grow in height. Whatever growth of the person takes place, that is the increase in height takes place, it is mostly during the age or till the age of 18 to 20, that is during the adolescence period. Once the adolescence period is over, mostly the person does not grow in height. So the maximum growth or maximum height increase takes place during the adolescence period. Now let's come on to the testosterone or the male sex hormone. This is an important hormone. Please learn the spelling as well as from where it is secreted, and it is the male sex hormone testosterone. Testosterone is the primarily male sex hormone. It is responsible for the development of the male reproductive organs, production of the male gamete, that is the sperms. It is also responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics in boys, and it is produced in the testis, and the testis starts secreting testosterone only after puberty. So only after a male or a boy enters the age of puberty, the secretion takes place. Secretion takes place in the testis only after there is signaling from that of the pituitary gland. It is responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics, and male gametes, that is the sperms, is also produced from the same testis along with that of testosterone. Moving on to the female sex hormone, that is oestrogen or estrogen. Oestrogen or estrogen is the primarily female sex hormone. It is responsible for the development of the female reproductive organ, production of female gamete, that is the ova. So the ovaries produce both the female sex hormone estrogen as well as the ova or the egg or the ovum. It is also responsible for the development of secondary sexual characteristics and the onset of the menstrual cycle that takes place. Ovaries secrete this hormone only after puberty, and the secretion of the ovaries on the onset of puberty. So the ovaries secrete this hormone only after the onset of puberty takes place, and this is produced by the ovaries along with that of the ova or the egg or the ovum, and it is the primarily female sex hormone. There is another female sex hormone that we know of, that is known as progesterone, other than that of oestrogen or estrogen. Now in the last slide we talk of the menstrual cycle, that is during this time it is the onset of puberty also marks of the start of the menstrual cycle. So let's have a look as to what is menstrual cycle. This is also an important phenomenon and important thing from an exam point of view. So it is the reproductive cycle of the females occurring every 28 to 30 days. So it occurs every 28 to 30 days. It begins as puberty, and the onset of the menstrual cycle is called the menarche. So when it is the start of the menstrual cycle, it is called the menarche. In either of the ovaries, an ovum develops, matures, and then it is released into the fallopian tube. And inner lining of the uterus thickens, anticipating pregnancy. So every month the uterus anticipates pregnancy and it thickens the inner lining of the wall at the endometrium. Pregnancy happens only when fertilization takes place. That is, the eggs and the sperms fuse and fertilize to form a zygote. Even only then pregnancy takes place. Along with the blood vessels, if fertilization does not take place, the matured egg or thickened lining of the uterus along with the blood vessels are all shed off. So if there is no fertilization taking place, the eggs remains viable for some days. After that, the inner lining of the uterus along with all the blood vessels that was preparing itself to receive the fertilized egg, they all shed and they are given out. This shedding of happens in the form of bleeding in women and is known as menstruation. So this happens in women every month or every after 28 to 30 days, and this process is called menstruation. The menstrual cycle stops in women anywhere between 45 to 52 years of age, and this particular phase where the menstrual cycle stops, that is the formation of the matured egg or the ova stops, and this part is known as menopause. This is known as menopause. The years between menarche and menopause marks the reproductive age of a woman where she can bear a child or where she can be giving birth to that of a child. So this is a very important part where the body or the female body prepares itself for getting a fertilized egg and for producing a baby. If that happens, then it gives birth to a baby. If that does not happen, all the preparations that was done by the uterus, the matured egg, along with the blood vessel, the inner lining of the uterus all ruptures and everything is given out or is ejected out in the form of blood, and that flowing of the blood every 28 to 30 days is known as the menstrual cycle or menstruation. So this happens in every woman till they reach the time or age of menopause, that is around 45 to 52 years. So this is a very important process happening in women or taking place in women. From the exam point of view, you should learn all the points or should take note of the points and remember the process very well. Now next, moving on to the final thing of the sex determination. How do we determine or how do we understand that whether a boy, it is going to be a boy or it is going to be a girl? Or who decides that whether the offspring that is born will be a boy or will be a girl? So let's see. Human beings have 23 pairs of chromosomes. Human beings have 23 pairs of chromosomes, that is 46 number of chromosomes, out of which one pair is the sex chromosome. Out of which one pair is the sex chromosome, and that sex chromosome, when it is in females, it is denoted by X chromosomes, that is both of the sex chromosomes in females are same, that is XX chromosomes, whereas in males this sex chromosomes are X and Y. So one is an X chromosome and the other is a Y chromosome. Now in a female has two X chromosomes, while that of a male has one X and one Y chromosome. So here is the difference that is happening. In males it is one X and one Y. So in case of male it is one X and one Y, and in case of females it is one X and the other is also X. The gametes have only one set of chromosomes. So we should remember that gametes have only one sex or one set of chromosome. Now this one set of the chromosome in the female egg and that of the male sperm, they fuses to form the 2n number of chromosomes, that is 23 pairs of chromosomes. Now the gametes have only one pair or one set of chromosome. The unfertilized ovum always has one X chromosome. The unfertilized ovum has only one X chromosome. So for the female it is fixed that the egg always has the X chromosome, because for the females both are X, so always it has the X chromosome. But in the male gametes or the sperms, there exists one kind having only one X chromosome and the other having a Y chromosome. So when it is for a male, it is some sperms have X chromosomes, whereas some sperms have a Y chromosome in them. So that deciding factor is not known. That is totally on a lateral basis that is done. That is, some sperms have X chromosome and some have Y chromosome. When a sperm containing X chromosome fuses with an egg, it develops into a female child. So when a sperm having an X chromosome fuses with the egg, I told you always the egg has a X chromosome, so it fuses with an X chromosome, it becomes XX, that is, this phenomena takes place, so it is always a girl child. So what happens, that X chromosome from that of the egg fuses with the Y chromosome with that of the sperm and forms the XY chromosome, XY pattern, and this XY gives rise to a male child or a boy child. So when a sperm containing Y chromosome fuses with the egg, it develops into a male child. So this is how the sex is determined. It is not the female or not the girl who decides the sex of the child, unborn child. It is the man or the male who decides the sex of the unborn child. But if you see it practically, it is not even the male or the female. It is something natural which decides. It is beyond the power of any human beings to decide if will it be a girl child or it will be a boy child. It is just a matter of chance what will come and fuse the egg, whether it is a sperm containing X chromosome or the sperm containing a Y chromosome. So it is no one to be blamed for having a girl child or for a boy child. It is totally a matter of chance. And finally, we move on to the reproductive health. So during this age, or during the onset of puberty or entering the adolescence phase, there is a lot of things happening in the body. So we must take very much proper care of our body in terms of the food, in terms of hygiene, in terms of cleanliness. Everything we should be very much proper, because this is the determining, or this is a very important part of the life cycle of a human being. So we should always, or the children or the boys and the girls, those who are entering or into the adolescence phase, should have proper nutritional, healthy, balanced diet. Proper nutritional, healthy, balanced diet. So nutritional, proper, healthy means their balanced diet should contain everything containing starting from carbohydrates, fats, proteins, vitamins, minerals. Everything should be there in the food, so that the body gets all types of enrichment, or the types of the nutrition that is required by the body, because this is where the maximum growth of the body takes place. So the adolescence equates to sudden growth spurt of the body. A growing body requires balanced diet, is a meal that includes proteins, carbohydrates, fats and vitamins in proper proportions. Therefore, all teenagers should consume a balanced diet and not junk food. You should be avoiding junk food. Next, we move on to the personal hygiene. This is a very important part. So we must all keep our bodies neat and clean, and so that it is free of all germs and bacterial and fungal infections. It should be washed daily and cleaned with soap. If cleanliness is not maintained, there are chances of catching bacterial and fungal infections. Physical exercise. We or the boys or the girls who are there in the adolescence age should be having, or should be doing, physical exercises, which helps to maintain, or which helps to keep their body fit. Because this is very important at this part of the age, not even this part of the age, throughout the life we should be staying fit. And for that, physical exercise like walking, playing, practicing yoga are some of the many ways through which we can stay fit and healthy. And finally, we must say no to drugs. A very big no to all of the drugs and addictive items. We must abide by the law, and we must always listen to our elders. We must say always no to drugs and any other tobacco related products. So this will help us to stay healthy and live a better life, because this is the most important part of our life cycle, where we develop into proper human beings with proper body and mind and intellectual and mental developing capacity. So all this should be kept in mind, because you students are now into the adolescence age. So you'll be growing, you'll be having lots of fun, but along with it, always you should be keeping in mind these things in order to stay healthy, fit and fine. So this brings us to the end of the chapter number 10, entering the age of adolescence, or reaching the age of adolescence, from class 8, NCERT, CBSE Biology. If you have liked my video, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. And if you have any queries, please put in the comments box. I'll surely get back to you. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, and obviously live a very good life. Next, I'll be coming up with MCQs of this chapter. Till then, bye and take care.